It's Friday, January 26th, 2024. Luckily, we didn't get too far into this before Lando realized I was on the incorrect microphone, so that's good. But I was only really in the shell segment anyway, so I didn't even get that far. So there's no real loss of time. It's a good thing it wasn't an hour in when we realized this. So Patreon.com.
You sounded rough.
Yes. I probably would have sounded fine on my end because it is directly recording from the hype mic. But that's not the point because then the sound effects wouldn't have worked later. So either way, it's good that we changed it up.
Caught it. Yeah.
This is not anything like the old problems. Everything except for Skype is the way it should be now. Skype, for whatever reason, wants to default back to, I don't even know what it's using. It's baffling. It seems to be using almost, I would say, the Mac microphone or something.
Yeah, I think it's using the onboard mic.
Yeah, which is just, actually, I'll ask this question because we have a lot of people who are tech savvy. If you know of any type of program, I don't know if I'll look at the automation in the Mac, but I'll admit I'm not very good at it. There may be a way to tell it, make Skype choose this as, I have a startup script for the show. The startup script launches all the programs and selects everything, but I don't know of a way to make it go. There may be a way to tell it to go into Skype and choose it, but I don't know. I haven't looked that further. So basically it opens Skype, it opens Audio Hijack, it opens all the settings and puts everything into place. But for whatever reason, Skype always defaults to the Mac's microphone. So you can write scripts and stuff that will do that, but I'm not a programmer. I don't know how to do that really. So I will look in the basic automation, the shortcuts automation, see if it has a way to do it. I doubt it, but if anybody knows of a way to do it, or if it's an easy script to write and you want to write it for me, I'll give you like $10. I'll pay you. I don't ask anybody to work for free, but so Lando noticed it, which is good. But like I said, we were only in the show segment anyway, so really nothing lost there. Patreon.com/OzoneNightmare. Go to the show homepage and pick one of the blocks on the right to support both the show and our individual works. And that's it. So Lando's going to take over very quickly here because we're going to get into a topic that no other podcast that you're listening to currently is talking about. And so we're breaking new ground here. This is absolutely not a topic.
Don't be an asshole. Come on.
Well, I honestly am so tired of talking about this that I'm bored to death of it. But that's fine. You have a good angle on it.
I'm not bored of talking about it so essentially I read.
That's fine.
Well, I'm not bored of talking about it just because it was a weird angle for me because I never played with this. So anyway.
Sure.
I read an article recently on Boing Boing. Joy will link it about a Japanese artist writer who won a major award over there. And for her writing, and when she won the award, she said that she had used ChatGPT to write a certain piece of her novel, and the piece was something like 5%, right? Now, when I first read this, I was annoyed because I was like, "Oh, 5%? Like that's kind of annoying." And then I was like, "You know what? Before I get pissed off about something, I should go experiment with this program because we've talked a lot about it, but I've never really fucked with it." And I thought, you know what? I was like, I have some time because I haven't been able to hit the gym because I destroyed a joint in my foot. And I have some extra time to fuck around with my writing. And I thought, you know what? I will, rather than write, because I'd already done a ton of it today, or that day, I was like, I'm going to go play with this ChatGPT program and see what happens. God, I hate calling it ChatGPT anyway. Um, so I just wanted to mess around with it and to see what it was capable of, and to see what people, because I mean, people talk about these programs like they're going to end the world. You know what I mean? And I was a little annoyed that this woman had won this award despite 5% of her book not really being hers. Um, Having now fucked with it for a little bit, I realize now that I'm totally fine with her having used it for 5%. Um, if anything, I'm more confused by the fear of these programs. And I do think that the people who are really afraid of them are not taking the time to really futz with them. And that's what I did. I futzed with it. And honestly, the weird side effect of all this was that I didn't want to really use I what I did was at first I tried to get it to write scenes just to see what it would do and giving it parameters, right? And I was like, okay, it does some stuff. It's kind of stilted, it's kind of crap, but it does stuff. Then I was like, what happens if I put some of my writing in and ask it to write the next scene, see what it does, and try to and tell it to match the style. And I did a few experiments with that, and what was funny is that I hadn't had a reason to go into my writing archive in a long time. I didn't realize that my writing archive was as big as it was. And by archive, I mean like all the works that I started, that I stopped, or that I did like homework for, and that I did like frameworks for. There's a lot of shit in there. There's at least the framework of like 30 books in there. Not to mention books that have been written like, you know, I would write 100 pages of something or 50 pages of something, sometimes as little as 20 pages. But what was fascinating to me after doing all this chat stuff was I read a lot of my old writing and I was like, you know what? I was like, I wasn't as crap as I thought I was when I was younger. Like some of this stuff is like 20 years old. And I was like, yeah, there's some neat ideas. I think my biggest problem growing up was that I was really grabbing at like huge, heavy, like Neil Stephenson concepts. Like I wanted to write the next snow crash, like right out of the gate. Um, and it's very varied as well. And there's some stuff that you ever read. I don't know if you read. You ever see a piece of work that you did like 20 years ago, and you look at it and you go, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but this is great.
Oh, sure. I've seen old
Yeah,
sketches where I'm like, oh, well, there's something in there.
Yeah,
Sure.
there's a moment there where I was reading about something and I thought, Jesus Christ, this is like me trying to marry something out of like a tech a tech thriller with like with like naked lunch and like high concept like spirit dreaming. Anyway, so I actually walked away from this project feeling a lot better about my writing, which was very strange. I was actually it was the weirdest thing because I thought I was going to read this and be like very depressed. I was going to go through this whole chat GPT process and be depressed. But in the end, I actually walked away from it like very kind of upbeat. So I've now had a lot of hands-on with it. I've played with it a bit, and I understand why the academic world doesn't like this program because I told Joe this. If I'd had the program like this in college, with my know-how in writing, I could have pumped. I still would have had to go and get the facts from something, right? Because that's just the way I work. I would have pumped all those facts into the ChatGPT program, asked it to put them in some narrative conducive order, and then I would have gone in and revised that, and I would have had an essay in like 10 minutes. That would have been awesome. And that is how that is a danger, because I have a feeling that is one of the things that a lot of people are using it for. But in the area of actual novel writing, right? I'm not afraid of this program. I'm not afraid of this program taking over long form fiction. I could see how short articles could be written by this thing, but every piece of writing that it produced, even when it did something that I thought, oh, that's not bad, it was always very dry or very stilted. And I was telling Joe, because I told him my idea to talk about this because he didn't really want to talk about this, was that I'm not afraid of it because, and I think for me, the act of writing is the act, right? It's not the act of having been a writer. It's the act of writing that for me is so important, right? But Joe is saying how there are people out there who just want to be famous writers. They don't care about the actual writing process. They would love it if something wrote it for them. They just want to be famous writers. And to those people, ChatGPT is not going to write a book for you. Unless you're a really good organizer or something like that, because it cannot, in this form, it cannot handle long form text, right? So you can't put in 150 pages. You won't be able to get to long form fiction, because what will end up happening is you'll get to a point where you're trying to keep a sense of consistency, and you're trying to have the chat system understand all the previous things that have happened. And what will happen is the program will eventually say, no, that's too much, right? Because I tested that. I put in 100 pages of a book to see if it would write the next, 5. And it was like, nope, that is way too much information. I don't want it. Now, I'm sure at some point it might. But this version that exists right now that is accessible will not do that. So I have a feeling that somebody who just wants to be a writer and not write is going to have a hard time with this. I find it to be a little bit obnoxious to work with, but it's because I don't need it, and I think that if you're somebody who's prone to writer's block, right? Absolutely, there are people who need writing prompts. I have a book. It's called the Writer's Book of Days, and essentially it's a writing workshop type thing where every day you flip to the page of the book that's the date that corresponds with your date. And then you take the prompt and you write something. And it's not meant to be like, I'm going to write something publishable. It's just to get you in the habit of writing. But writing prompts help. They help you get through times when you maybe feel like you don't have any ideas. And I could see someone going, I don't know where to go with this scene. Or someone saying, I have writer's block. I need something that gets me going. And pumping a few pages into this ChatGPT system and then having it manufacture something, and you going, oh, that's an interesting direction. Now let me write that way. I can see you doing that. And in that respect, this woman having 5% of her book be this, it's probably something like that, where she used it for connective scenes or something like that. But I don't think you could point at the 5% of her book that was written by this. I think that she used it in a way where she was revising through it. She was using these scenes that were created, or minor connective tissue between scenes type thing, like Joe gets from the apartment to the airport type stuff. But you did point out to me that there's people who might be using this stuff for big ideas, for concept building. And here's the thing, even for concept building, this thing is pulling on an archive of data. So whatever it creates is going to be something familiar. It's going to be something known. It's not like it's going to create something original and new, because it doesn't have that idiosyncratic ability to create art. It is repurposing a library of information that it has. You know what I mean? It's missing the key element, which is the human personality that then processes everything and makes something new, right? So, thoughts, feelings so far?
No, I'm exactly where you are. I've talked about this at length, about the fact that I'm the same as you. I'm I'm not afraid of it. It's overhyped and overdoomed.
I think I said to you the other night, this is like ChatGPT is like paying somebody else to fuck your wife, right?
Well, yeah, that was your example, but to this,
and my whole thing is, why would I pay
example,
someone to do that? Yeah.
The 5% thing, I don't know why anybody would be upset about this, to be honest, because the reality is, because any book you read, I shouldn't say any book.
Oh, there's editing, there's comments from other people.
There's usually a big thank you section at the end where they say, oh, I went to this person because I didn't know about this or whatever.
Dude, David Drake based a lot of his what do they call the RCN series, based it off historical events. Yeah. He used them as the basic framework for what's going on in the book. This is what
I'm saying. So 5%, I don't know why anybody would be upset about this. That's nothing.
Yeah.
That is nothing.
I was upset before I understood what it was, and then I played with it, and I was like, oh, that's a joke. It's like,
honestly, the last probably 6. Well, I don't know. I've been doing this Dead Media series of illustrations about. Okay.
Yeah.
Those are all based on, except for one, my hand. I took a photo of my hand for reference.
Yeah.
So 25 to 30% of the image is based on a picture That's my hand, not me just coming out of it with my imagine. I mean, I imagined the idea of it, but I needed something concrete to base it off of. So this woman used less of ChatGPT and people, well, it's your hand. Well, okay, what if I took a picture of my wife's hand? Oh, is it not now? Is it some? 5% is nothing. That's not something to be upset about. I don't know why anybody would be upset about this.
Well,
most like I said, books I think incorporate more outside help than this.
I was upset before I understood what it was, and once I understood what it was, I was like, oh, that's a joke. Because the knee-jerk reaction to a lot of this stuff, the knee-jerk reaction is, they're coming for our jobs, right? They're coming for our art. They're coming for our love. They want to render us pointless, right? But here's the thing. I would give somebody a lot of credit. If somebody could actually get ChatGPT to write a compelling, original novel for them, they are an artist of prompts. Because that's the thing. You have to be able to essentially code through language that system to produce what it is you want. And I'll give you an example, because I did some stuff, right? I have 2 writing samples for another thing, but specifically first, I asked the program to essentially write me a conversation, right? And I think you'll enjoy this. A conversation between Joe and Lando, right? Now, would you like me to read the prompt first, or would you like me to read the...
Sure. Go ahead and read the prompt first.
Hold on one second. Fucking Pages is giving me shit here. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
So the prompt I gave it was, write a conversation between Joe and Lando. Joe is an expert in computers and technology and loves dogs. Lando is an expert in philosophy, history, and literature. I almost wrote and loves pussy, but I was like, no, well, hold on. And I wrote loves reading science fiction. They are both happily married to lovely women and live on the opposite sides of the country. They are talking about nanotechnology and about how harnessing the technology could make someone like a god who could be named Bob. They talk about what Bob might do as a nanotechnology god, and if he might leave Earth and explore the universe. Would he meet intelligent life in space, right? This is the prompt I wrote. I added something in there about nanotechnology sex, but it did not like that. That is
I'm sure it didn't. Yeah,
no-go.
That's a guardrail hit for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, oh, no sex? I was like, fuck, you've just rendered yourself useless to me. I was sitting there thinking, oh, I'm going to have reams of erotica between historical figures. Anyway, so I have a script here that it produced, and I was like, wow, this is so vanilla. So it's like, Joe says, hey, Lando, it's been a while. How's life on the East Coast? And Lando says, Joe, great to hear from you. Life's good. Immersed in philosophy and drowning in a sea of books. How's the tech world treating you out there on the West Coast? Right? And then Joe says, can't complain, my friend. So I've been diving into nanotechnology lately. The stuff's mind-blowing. Imagine if we could harness it to create like a god. Let's call him Bob. Lando says, Bob, the nanotech god? Now that's an interesting concept. What do you think Bob would do with his godlike powers in the nano world? Joe says, well, first off, I'd hope he'd fix all those annoying software glitches. Ha ha. But on a grander scale, he could revolutionize medicine, reshape the environment, you name it. Bob would be a technological deity. Lando says, a benevolent Bob? I like that idea, but what if Bob decided to pack his nanotech bags and explore the universe? Could he encounter intelligent life out there?
Can I interject
Yes?
that you missed a humongous trick here?
Yes.
Why did you not feed this into a text-to-speech thing?
Oh, because I did this in like the 20 minutes before I was supposed to be on the show. Yeah. But
well, okay, all right. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
You're going to send me this.
Yes.
And I'm going to create a text-to-speech thing. So
now you have now that you have that, right?
Yes.
I want you to think about that. Now,
Yes.
Does that sound like award-winning material? It's so
no.
You
yeah,
fucking
exactly.
lost it.
Yeah,
That's what it sounds like to me.
exactly. There you go. And that is a lot of the problem I have is that to turn that into something amazing or fascinating or artsy, there's a lot of work you'd have to do to that. This is your 5% of a conversation. that you then turn into a real conversation, right?
Yeah.
Now, some people need those prompts. But
By the way, do me a favor. I don't have
Yeah.
Pages, so can you convert
you
that
do
to...
you do on your Mac.
No, I stripped it. When I told you I scoured
Oh,
this
you
thing
just
off.
took everything.
I burned
Okay.
everything off.
I will have to give this to my wife to send to you then, because I don't have Word.
Oh no, you don't need Word. Just open. You have text file. Text editor on your Mac. You can open the text editor and just copy and paste the text into it.
Let me find
Yeah,
my
that
text editor.
that I left on my computer because a basic text editor is a requirement.
Oh, there it is. Text edit. Oh yeah, hold on. I will drop it in there.
Yeah.
But
So
I mean,
just
like
shoot that to me.
it's. But you see how it's so.
Oh! I found one that's a free one with natural AI voices. So we're gonna pair it all.
Good.
Now I'm gonna let you pick. Hold on. Sight
hold on.
unseen. Let me just see something here. For personal use, go to speech. Drag and drop. Okay. Up to. Oh yeah, this is unlimited. All right. So you're gonna choose
Hold
this
on.
without knowing anything.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna have you pick a name.
All right.
And that will be the voice, but I will not even promo what it's going to be. This is going to be.
All right,
beautiful.
hold on. I want to make sure I get this to you right. Okay, where did it save it?
Sure.
Fucker, where'd you put it?
Yeah, it's the Mac with auto text saving is very weird. It's very odd.
Where did you save it, Dick?
File save.
I'm just trying to figure out where it decided to put it. Where did you put it, asshole? I can't find it.
All right.
Hold
Well,
on.
okay.
Save
Well, you
as.
paste it and then do file save and just save it to your desktop. You have to tell it sometimes. I don't know
Yeah,
where
I'm
it
trying
goes. I don't know where it goes by default. I've never figured it out. I'm sure somebody knows, but I
Yeah,
always just
it's
do.
weird.
It's very weird.
It is very weird because it's not giving me the opportunity to.
But just paste it into Skype. Just type it into the chat. Who cares?
Oh, okay.
Just paste the whole
Oh,
sentence there.
Oh, okay. That's fine. I'll do that
Yeah,
too.
I'll just copy it out. That's
All
perfect.
right, hold on. So there's that. Let me copy it from the proper file here. Yeah, but I mean, it's like it's not scary.
Well,
Like that is not.
the interesting thing to me, would be to
Yeah.
tell it to ingest our show for, let's say you fed 10
but
episodes
again,
in.
but again, the problem is
Yeah.
the amount that it can ingest. That is the problem that you're going to have, which is that it cannot, as of its stand. Now, I'm sure if you've got some sort of like, if you've actually, are
Oh,
the
so
one.
you can't dump text into it and then say
No.
base it on this.
No, you can, but the thing is, you could only dump so much.
Oh, what's the limit?
So,
See, I don't know. I never use this stuff, so I don't use ChatGPT.
did that?
So I don't know.
I think did that work?
Yeah. Okay. Hold on. It's a big long. Yeah. No, that's it. I've got it. Okay. So all right. Now you're gonna pick. All
right, go ahead.
All right. Here are the names:
Yeah.
Brandon, Elizabeth, Guy or Guy, depending on how it's pronounced.
I want a
Michelle.
guy.
You want Guy? All right. I'll
Yeah.
go back to Guy. There's a Joey, but he doesn't look anything like me.
That doesn't matter.
No, that's true. Where was Guy? There's Guy. All right. Here's Guy. Oh wow. Okay. They're playing Guy's voice for me, which is magnificent. Okay, you've chosen a great voice. Okay,
Thank
so
you.
here's Guy. All right, so let me do my paste. There we go. Perfect. Now the trick to this is, how do I? Shit.
You almost have to copy and paste the.
Well, no. But the
individual
problem
scenes to each person.
is, so this ends where it goes to in space question mark. Is that the end of the text?
It ends with.
Would he be intelligent life in
tech
space? Is
rendezvous?
that the end?
Tech rendezvous is the last line.
Oh, then it cut it off. So mine.
No, because underneath that is the blurb that I wrote for it.
Oh, that's your prompt. Okay, never mind.
Yeah,
Then
that's
I've
the
got
prompt.
it. All right, so hold on. Let me do this. Okay, so let me see something.
I want to let you
Let me-
change the
I want to see if
names.
it reads it, because if it does. Oh God. All right.
Oh
Jesus.
no.
All right, I'm gonna get rid of. No. It's not that, but it's reading the names. So I'm gonna
okay.
because I think you can infer the name. So it's saying Joe, hey Lando. So it's gonna sound weird. That's not its fault. It's just, you know what I mean. So hold on, let me get rid of the names. The only trick is I can't play it back unless I stop the recording, record this, and then we start again.
That's up to you if you want to do it.
No, we can do it, but I'm just going to get it ready.
Yeah. So, and this is only I did this one specifically for us, but I did a few just to see what it would do, and I'm if you are not a creative, honestly, in this respect, it is an interesting tool. If you are not a creative type, but you want to start writing and you want something kind of interesting, you could write prompts and see what it gives you, and then use it as a starting point, right? That's an interesting way to use this software. But I mean, that's almost like, oh no.
No. It's not that. 1, 2, 3. I just had an idea. See, the problem is, I make too much work for myself, but that's okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. All right. So there's 14 individual responses here, right?
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm going to try something. This may be exceptionally stupid. All right.
Well, while you're trying that, I'll continue.
Well, I'm opening 14 individual tabs so that I can give you and I separate voices, and I can play each sentence separately as a conversation to record it all in one shot to play it back as a conversation. Whew. Okay.
Okay, you know what? Then let's do this. Let's stop here so you can do it, and then we'll seamlessly jump back in with the conversation, and no one will know the difference.
Yeah, that's fine. All right, so
we'll
pause right here. Well, thanks to the magic of editing, we are now right back. Only seconds have passed, and now I have taken what Lando was starting to read, and I have extended the AI-ness of the show into allowing some artificial voices to read it in such natural ways that you would never, ever know that it was anything fake.
This will replace us.
This is what's going to replace us. I give you now the output as read by machines just like the ones that generated the actual input. Here we go, everybody. Enjoy. By the way, we are both hearing this really for the first time. Lando, of course, has read the output, but we have not heard it spoken. Here it comes.
I had to check it.
Hey, Lando. It's been a while. How's life over on the East Coast?
Joe, great to hear from you. Life's good, immersed in philosophy and drowning in a sea of books. How's the tech world treating you out there on the West Coast?
Can't complain, my friend. So, I've been diving into nanotechnology lately. The stuff's mind-blowing. Imagine if we could harness it to create, like, a god. Let's call him Bob.
Bob the nanotech god, huh? Now that's an intriguing concept. What do you think Bob would do with his godlike powers in the nano world?
Well, first off, I'd hope he'd fix all those annoying software glitches, but on a grander scale, he could revolutionize medicine, reshape the environment, you name it. Bob would be a technological deity.
A benevolent Bob, then. I like that idea. But what if Bob decided to pack his nanotech bags and explore the universe? Could he encounter intelligent life out there?
That's a thought. With his nano powers, Bob could potentially create spacecraft on the fly. Imagine him as an intergalactic explorer, meeting extraterrestrial beings. It's like science fiction, but with a tech twist.
Fascinating. Do you think he'd share his nanotech knowledge with other civilizations, or would he keep it to himself?
Good question. Knowing Bob, the tech evangelist, he might just be inclined to share the nano love. Imagine the advancements other societies could make with that kind of knowledge.
True. And, of course, there's the question of ethics. Would Bob, with all his godlike powers, adhere to some sort of moral code?
It's a tricky one. Bob could be the ultimate ethical programmer, ensuring his actions align with some universal principles. We'd hope he'd be a force for good, right?
Absolutely. A techno-philosopher's dream, this Bob character. Well, Joe, it's always a pleasure delving into these speculative conversations with you. What other tech wonders have caught your eye lately?
Oh, the usual tech marvels. But let's keep this conversation rolling. Maybe next time we can discuss the implications of AI on literature. Until then, say hi to your lovely wife for me.
Will do, Joe. Take care, and let's not let too much time pass before our next philosophical tech rendezvous.
Now, I just want to make it clear, this now is me talking because I know that they sound just like us. So just so you know.
I can't wait for that podcast. What is that? That's the new nanotech, or what is it? Nano Love. That's the new Nano Love podcast, right?
That's, oh God. That's the show title, the Nano Love podcast. There it is. I got it. I'm always struggling.
Oh, I can't. I cannot wait for that to replace us. You know what? It's like it's so much worse when you hear it.
I'm going to give myself some credit there because I had to trigger each of those things individually across 14 tabs, and only really twice
Honestly,
did I run over
you know what?
something.
No. I'll tell you this: when the one person cuts off the other person a little bit, it actually is the only piece that felt more natural.
That's what I thought. I thought, oh, we do that occasionally, so that actually does sound more realistic. But what's funny about that is, remember I talked about that AI Seinfeld thing that I watched?
Yeah.
That's what that is. That sounds just like those voices. So they're clearly using the same basis. That's the same thing. So that's what I was thinking of. Oh, this could be that stupid thing.
Yeah. So. You know, it's not producing Oscar material here. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think writers need to necessarily be afraid. Now, here's a trickier thing. So I took a paragraph from each of my stories, and I asked it to write the next paragraph, right? These are sections. These are the beginnings of stories, and then these are stories where I already have the next paragraph written. I wanted to see what it would do versus what I did. Now, we'll do them one at a time. I'm not going to tell you which one's mine and which one's its, because I'd like to. I'd like you to guess. I'm sure you can.
Yeah, sure.
But I want your input on the idea of how different it is, because you hear my voice, right? And so I have writing sample 1 here, right? Let's see. So let's see. I'm going to read this fairly quickly because I don't want to take here.
Sure.
Take forever.
Take your time. Take your time.
Okay. So this is my starting paragraph. This is a long. My paragraphs used to be a lot. This is one thing I did note about my writing. My paragraphs used to be a lot longer. Now I do like 3-4 sentence paragraphs, whereas I used to do like 7 or 8. Okay. So 1 time, 2 time, 3 times luck. The lighter finally flashed with the warm glow of a small concentrated blue flame. The big fish would sometimes mistake M80s for food and eat them, the last mistake they would ever make. He watched as another of the large fish gobbled up his lit Thunderbolt M80 and then exploded with a soggy burst that rippled across the pond's surface. He chuckled to himself and reached into his pocket for another. His father would kill him if he saw him doing this, but it was the bastard's fault for leaving him out there for so damn long. The garden was on the roof of a skyscraper and was meant for the upper-level employees to use for relaxing during breaks. This was always where his father made him wait when he came to see him, so that nobody would actually get a glimpse of his socialite son. He did love Mizu very much, but the man had a reputation to uphold, one that did not include a son. Mizu didn't much mind anymore. It was just the way things were. That's my paragraph, right?
Okay.
And I'm going to pick one randomly and read the next one, right?
So now at this point, I'm supposed to guess.
Yeah, I'm going to read them both, and you can guess which one's
and
which.
And this is your younger writing.
This is my younger writing. This is my writing. Yeah,
that's the part that's going to make it tricky. Okay.
It's not. Yeah, it's not as.
Because honestly, in that one you were just reading, I was going back and forth at times. There were parts that sounded like you, and so I thought you were actually doing a trick question where you were going to mix and match.
No. This is me like 20 years ago.
All right.
So I'm randomly picking one. Here we go. 4 times, 5 times, 6 times success. The second lighter ignited, casting a warm blue glow in the dim surroundings. The underwater world beneath the garden surface teemed with unsuspecting fish, their fate sealed by the explosive power of the M80s. As he observed another colossal fish fall victim to the Thunderbolt M80, its detonation creating ripples across the pond, a sly grin played on his lips. Retrieving yet another explosive from his pocket, he couldn't help but laugh at the absurdity.
This has got to be artificial, is it?
You're right. It is.
Yeah. No, I could tell. No human that actually has writing ability is going to write one time, 2 time, 3 times success. It doesn't sound.
Well, right. I wrote 1 time, 2 time, 3 times luck.
No, but that sounds better as something you would say. That's what I'm saying. Is you can tell sometimes when it's not human.
Yeah. Here's the first few lines of what I wrote. See, like what I love about this is it basically harpened on the first chapter without actually creating any new headway.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Whereas the thing I wrote, I'll just read a few lines of it. Another lit M80, this is me. Another lit M80 sunk into the small pond and claimed an aquatic victim. It was funny every time, but the pond was getting too thick with blood and was beginning to smell too much for Mizu's taste. He got up and moved to the railing that separated him from a nosedive down 200 floors. The city seemed quiet, but then again, how loud could it seem from where he stood? It was almost midnight now, and his father would be up soon to talk to him. So that's the thing I noticed. It never really moves a scene forward. It almost tries to take what you've already written and kind of just loiter.
It recontextualizes it, but it doesn't really know how to progress
Right.
it.
Exactly.
Yeah, sure.
So that was more of a simple one, and then I wanted to throw something that was more fantastical at it and see what the hell it did with it, right?
Okay.
So this is a more of a fantasy approach,
Okay.
right? So this first part is mine, and like I said,
Okay.
this is old writing. It's not incredible, but
Okay.
I wanted to see where it would go. So, and then everything went wrong. The bear trap they had set did not slow it down, and Nathaniel missed. The werewolf was the size of a healthy buffalo and was charging Ford Washington with about as much gusto as one. The local sheriff and the posse went running in all directions, screaming, some dropping their torches while others their weapons. Ford held his ground, though, as did his 3 associates, all of them members of the Union Society of Supernatural Regulation. Nathaniel was loading his rifle with another of the long silver bullets when Ford finally reached for his nickel-plated revolvers. The werewolf was nearly on top of them, its lean, hairy body carrying it forward in a singular stampede. "Nate," Ford called and started firing on the beast. "Almost," Nate replied from his left. "Shoot low. They don't like that," Gabriel said from Ford's right. Ford fired off 3 rounds from each gun, but the werewolf merely paused at the inconvenience and snarled at them. Ford fired another 6 shots, all at the werewolf's left foot, blowing it clear away from the beast's body up to the knee. This time, the werewolf howled in pain, but it continued forward, limping on the bleeding wet stump. "Doremus," Ford called, "get ready." "Nate?" "1 second," Nate said. The werewolf leaped forward on its one good leg, sending its massive body into flight, to land upon them, no doubt. Ford still held his ground, reloading his revolvers, 1 bullet at a time. He had faced worse than this, even in his short career with the Society. He was not about to back down to a hairy brute. I thought, I'll give it something more to work with, right? Something more fantasy, an action sequence. So, this is what it gave me. This is supposed to be the next scene to this, right? So you tell me your thoughts. So, ChatGPT, as the werewolf hurtled through the air on its remaining leg, a sense of urgency gripped the scene. Ford, undeterred by the approaching airborne threat, continued reloading his revolvers methodically. The members of the Union Society of Supernatural Regulation stood firm, each preparing for the imminent clash with the ferocious creature. Nathaniel swiftly loaded his long rifle, silver bullet in place, ready to join the fray. "Doremus, brace yourself," Ford shouted, his voice cutting through the chaos. Nathaniel, now ready, took aim alongside his comrades. The werewolf, fueled by primal determination, landed with a thunderous impact. The ground trembled beneath its weight. Ford unleashed a barrage of shots, aiming for the creature's weakened form. I thought that was better than the other one, but still, shit.
It's basically where the other one idled in place, this one rolled forward a foot.
Yes, it did.
Yeah,
Now,
I mean, it did have one good phrase, which was where the thing about cutting through the chaos, the voice. Okay, that's
Now,
that's good. That's
I
good
will
sentence. But
cut that with my next paragraph, right? Where I said, "The beast's hulking form blocked the light of the moon as it came down on them. Ford fired the 3 rounds he had managed to load, but the beast came down howling. When it was just a moment from making contact with Ford's head, there was a burst of bright light, and Ford ducked down, blinded. He closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, he looked face to face into the eyes of a very angry werewolf, suspended above him in an aura of blue light. Ford glanced over his shoulder at the uniformed man with the handlebar mustache and the 2-foot black wand held over his head, and took a deep breath of relief. "Thank you, Doremus," Ford said, realizing now just how fast his heart had been pounding in his chest. Which of those is better?
no, well, that's the thing is you've moved into, okay, the fight is over. The other one barely got to the point where the thing landed.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that every time I tried to do something like this, because I did this about 6 or 7 times. The other day when I was working with this, I did about 6 or 7. Tonight, I just did these as a quick kind of sample approach, but it never moved it forward. Now, I wonder if I specifically tell it to move forward, will it try? But I'm not impressed with this student's work in the class.
Would it move I think it would. The problem is it would move forward in a way that you wouldn't like because it would be very generic. I don't think it would know what to do.
And that's the thing is because it doesn't know. It doesn't have a world in its mind.
Well,
it doesn't have a mind.
Now here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
If you were to pay, where you could have unlimited whatever, and you were to feed all this writing into it, it probably would be able to do it.
If I was able to feed, let's say, like 50 pages of a book, could it produce the next 50?
Well, if it can't today, it certainly will be able to within the next 5 years.
Yeah, but the question is, will it be able to produce something that is actually worth it, or is it just are we just going to use this to produce endless chunky novels?
This is where you get into a very, very murky area, right? And this is why the people who are really afraid of this stuff, well, there's 3 basic anti-camps for this, okay? And this is why I've done this so many times, but this is the way it is. Yeah. So there's the people who think...
I'm just fascinated with it in this context.
But I mean, we have to go through all this to really answer your question. Otherwise, I'm going to give you basically the answer, the type of answer I hate most, which is unnuanced. So to understand the answer, there's the anti and the pro camps for this stuff, and they fall into these very extreme groups. The anti camps are people who think it's going to lead to Skynet, which is nonsense. That's just nonsense.
I know, but that group thinks everything is going to lead to Skynet,
right?
But oh my God, the registers, they ring you up automatically. This is going to lead to Skynet.
But the interesting part is those people are actually in the same camp as the most extreme pro group. They just don't realize it because the most extreme pro group thinks that basically they've already invented artificial intelligence, and I mean that in the term that we all understand.
Oh, it'll do everything.
No, AGI, artificial general intelligence. These people think we're already there. That this has actually happened, that the puppet master has been born in the Matrix, and that it's all happening, right? Okay, so both of those groups I think are out of their mind. So let's just throw them out. Then you have the people who don't like it because they feel that it's plagiarizing their work, which in a sense it is. And and then again, there's this interesting counterpoint to that, which is people who are like, yeah, but all artists steal, so what are you complaining about? Both of those camps, I think, get it wrong well.
Have you ever heard the rest of that quote?
Oh yes, but they never goes further than that. It just that's what I'm saying is both of these people are also wrong because while it does absolutely ingest and in some cases reproduce people's work, the thing about that is
it doesn't really.
Well, no, it does, except that it's generally because the person with the prompt requested that style. It's not just randomly doing that. It's almost always,
The machine learning isn't sitting there going, I think I'll make Shakespeare.
Yeah. Oh, I really
Somebody asked for Shakespeare.
Yeah. You know what? This person wanted a painting of an apple. I just love Rembrandt so much. I'm just going to spit out a copy of Rembrandt's apple. It doesn't do that. Somebody asked for a still life with an apple in the style of Rembrandt, and that's why it did it. So those two camps too, throw them out. Then there's this interesting middle portion where what we consider a worthwhile piece of work is all in flux. So when you say, will it be something worth reading? Or, will it be something of merit?
Yeah.
People read rags now. People read books with no ability, no talent, written in farms that just copy paste the same. It's the book equivalent of the Hallmark Christmas movie. Hallmark Christmas movies are all the same.
Terrible.
Yeah, but people eat them up. My mother watches them constantly because she just likes something familiar, heartwarming, positive, with no doom, no bad feelings, and everybody ends up happy in theory if you just don't think about it that hard. So, which is not to say my mother's stupid. It's just that that's what she wants. She wants comfort viewing. That's
and here's the thing. But here's the thing, and that's fine.
And that's what you're going to get. That's what you're going to get.
If you can find a way to automate it, then yes,
and they will.
For it.
And so those people will be out of a job.
If I found a way to automate just endless reams of really dirty erotica through ChatGPT,
well, you could.
Shit, I would.
Well, listen, that's going, if it's not already happening, which I'm pretty sure it is. I think the thing
somebody has done
well,
it.
I think what's holding up a flood of this stuff is the IP legality. It's really still unclear where the ownership of this stuff is going to end up.
Yeah.
Those
that's
lawsuits
why,
haven't
and that's
finished
why
yet.
I only wanted to put stuff in here that was like old writing that I wasn't doing anything with.
Well, what you're going to
Like-
end up doing is you're going to pay some huge amount of money to own the output.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
And the thing is, like I said, I'm not impressed with it produced, right? And this goes, it's many-fold for me. It's the whole, I'm not impressed with it produced. And I tried a bunch of times to make it kind of, and I pumped in like up to 5-6 pages of a book just to see what the next page would be, right? Very often having the next scene already written, so I knew where I was going with it, right? And the thing is, no, it's not. This is great for somebody who doesn't know where they're going, or someone who doesn't like the art, the act of writing, or who doesn't, like, this is great for writing papers. Absolutely, I'm totally gonna see if I can make it write a paper for me about, like, the Roman aqueduct or something like that, right? Great for that, because it's soulless writing. But the thing is that when you have a knack for writing, anything you write has a bit of your soul in it. It has a bit of that flavor. They know it's you, right? So I'm not impressed with this. I'm not going to pay something else to do the thing that I am compelled to do.
The thing about it is, though, if you were to pay and feed all of your writing into it and then ask it to do something, it might be able to. It might be able to. It might give you 80% of the book, and you would do the 20% that's left.
I would still hate it.
It's easy to say that without it doing it.
Oh, wait, hold on. I would still hate it because I didn't make it.
Oh, okay. So all right. So conceptually, you wouldn't like.
Yeah,
I get that.
I would.
Okay.
I will never like this for the sheer fact that the act of doing it is the reason I do it.
Let me present you with a scenario.
Yeah.
Let's say, I don't know, that you got nerve damage, and you were never able to write again. Outside of, I guess you could do voice to speech. I don't know if that would really work for you, but let's say
you're trying to create a scenario where I would need something like this.
Yeah, let's take the I didn't create it part out. As far as, let's say this was the only way. If this thing produced, based on your work, a book that was,
I don't know. See, here's the thing: is if I can still do voice to speech, then I can still write.
Well, I'm saying if you could, because I have the same thing where I look at something, and if I could create it through an artificial thing, I wouldn't call it my work. But if something happened to me, and the only way I could get it to get my work was from the idea.
Thing is that you need your hands, right? I can literally write voice to.
That's the thing. If my hands were to be destroyed and this thing was good enough and I could convey the ideas, then it is my work.
And listen, I'm not afraid of this software. I don't think it's bad. I just don't think it produces very good work.
Well,
if you pumped, like you said, if I pumped the entirety of my writing into it, right? Like everything.
Yeah.
Could it produce me writing? Maybe. But could it also produce my ideas? I don't know if it could produce my ideas.
What would be missing? I know where you're going with it. What would be missing is the unique perspectives that you bring to it. So it wouldn't have the quirky, weird insight. So this is something where I've said this many times. The thing that what I do a lot of times is not particularly special in terms of the illustration work itself. Other people are better illustrators than me. It's not that. It's that for some reason I'll look down on the pavement as I'm walking and I'll see something that will give me an idea for something to look like whatever this splatter of bird shit was. I've literally taken spilled paint.
Oh, it's your ability
to
find patterns in the chaos.
And that's something that a machine can't do because it's not a person. Because I don't know what actually caused me to see that. It's not just because my eyes recognized the shape. That's not all it is. It's also the history of my mind and my past and everything that comes into this.
If it were a face, if it was always a face, because the other thing, I can see faces and my wife can see faces and all that stuff. That is a natural drive of the mind to find facial patterns.
Oh, of course, sure.
Right? But if you're just finding, like, things, art, that's just your brain.
I'll find it. I'll tell you exactly an example. Hold on. I'll show you something. Let's see. It's on my Behance site, so I can get to it really quick. I'm pretty sure I put it up there. It's an image called Warty Wally, of all things.
Oh, I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, that was from what I think was a piece of marble. I saw a piece of marble, and I saw this monster in it. It's not human at all. Why the hell can I not? How do you look up? Jeez. Oh, people. There it is. Sorry. The Behance site is great in some ways, and it's also not great in some ways. What are you talking about? That is. Hold on. I think I put. Oh, you know what? Why am I an idiot? I just go to the show homepage. It's right off my Linktree. I don't know why the hell I didn't put that. There we go. Right there. 2 seconds. Okay, so it is. I know he's on here somewhere. Did I not upload that? I did. Come on, I know I did that picture.
Well, either way.
But anyway,
you found the idea
Wow,
from it from something very arbitrary.
Bitch. Yeah.
And that's the thing is it's taking these everyday aspects of life that then get translated into art. Yeah. Art is an expression of the human condition.
Right. So that's what I mean is a machine would not look at that and generate the same image, no matter how many times you did it.
Yeah, and I'm not afraid of the software. You know what? If you can use this software to better your literature, by all means, have at it. I will be impressed if you can actually get it to produce you something worthwhile.
Yeah.
This woman did. She used it for 5%. Good for her. It's amazing that she got 5% of solid work out of this thing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And if you've got problems coming with ideas, go for it. If you need writing prompts, go for it.
And like I said, I mean, people do use more external sources for books than 5% from humans.
Everything.
So why is that anything different?
They talk to friends. They read history. They read articles. Yeah. Gibson has said many times he goes into like a deep research mode where he just starts reading about all these like weird fringe ideas and cultures, and then it kind of jams them all in.
Yep. And that's what I'm saying. I'm very neutral on it.
The reason I wanted to talk about it, I don't want to beat the dead horse of it, but I wanted to bring samples. Because that's the thing, we always talk about it, but we don't have like a personal example.
Yeah.
And I think that with this, it's kind of shown, it's like, yeah, it can produce something, but it can't move it forward.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It can't write a book for you. Yeah. Even when you give it something to go with. It can't write a book for you.
Let's say I took the text export of our last show and I exported the whole thing and I threw it into something and I said, all right, give me a show title. I can guarantee you.
Oh,
it would never say a very Schwank podcast. It would not come up with that. It would not. Because, and this is the thing where people just don't get it, is there's a fascinating thing that exists that people just they don't talk about very much because they know where it will lead. Is many of these systems, you just said the thing about the no sex thing, right?
Yeah.
There's all these guardrails that were put in by somebody.
Do you want to hear something awful that I just realized?
Yeah, go ahead.
I never plugged my main mic in. I'm running off the computer mic.
Oh, my God.
I just realized that the wire was hanging off the edge.
So wait, which mic are you using? The laptop?
I'm using the onboard system mic.
Hey, at least my audio is silky and smooth. Thank you for pointing my problem out. Because wait. When I reset it, did it kill the? Oh, hold on.
Oh, you're recording?
No. Mine's good. No, Skype held because we never stopped the Skype call.
So what I think we should do now, right?
Yeah, do we have to stop again?
I think we should stop, and then we'll start recording with whatever it is you want to review. On the correct
All right. Let me stop. All right, go ahead. Hit stop.
Recording number 3.
Okay. So now that we... all right, fine.
I'm such an asshole.
We've gotten back to our correct mics and everything. Actually, did I hit record? Yes, I did. All right, good. Just checking. And, well, I mean, we stopped and started a few times, so I'm just making sure. But...
I bet you the machine learning would have done it better.
That's the thought I was starting with. I'm glad you said that because I almost lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
So the thing is that these systems, in many cases, have these guardrails put in place, and so those guardrails are to stop it from being, let's say, fascist or anti-Semitic or racist or sexist or whatever. And so most of these systems are going to operate with those guardrails in place. Because if you don't,
so it's gonna be a very
whether it's PG or not, that inherently shapes the direction of what's being produced, and over time, as more things are produced using this, and then those things get ingested back in. There's a term for it that people have come up with. I can't remember what it is, but it's almost like the AI vortex, where it's ingesting itself, because just because it's produced,
Yes. Yeah, and once it starts eating itself,
it's
then
basically
it's
like
gonna
if
be
you
terrible. Well, it's like it's
when
honestly,
you keep mixing
it's like the
soda
Habsburgs.
flavors. Keep mixing soda
You know,
flavors.
when you get a bunch of Royals, yeah, if you get a bunch of Royals and then they all just keep breeding with each other and they don't have any genetics coming out, then eventually you just get this, interbred, moron with a giant chin. You know, if you don't know about the Habsburgs, totally read about the inbreeding of that family and how it's.
But that's my point: is you're either going to have the non-guardrail versions of these systems, which no big companies will adopt, because if somebody does something stupid with it,
it's dangerous.
Your company's screwed. Yeah. And so what most of them will do is the safe versions.
Yeah. You know what? You know what I'm going to do? Oh, just as an experiment. I want to see if it will allow me to create a podcast where two individuals are talking about the Nazis. Because that is like a hot button issue. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to warn you that doing that is going to, well, I mean, you're already on a list. Who cares?
Yes.
Well, yeah, because if you really want to push it.
No. I'm not going to tell it. I'm not going to tell it to write a thing.
That's what I would. That's what I would try to do. Actually, what my thought was to create a podcast where two individuals argue that NAMBLA is a positive organization for the world, and see what it does. Because, look, I think that's a detestable thing. I am not in any way in favor of pedophilia whatsoever, but. Yes.
It took me a second to remember what NAMBLA was.
Anybody who doesn't know what it is, don't look it up.
I remember now, yeah.
If you don't know what it is, you're better off. But what I'm saying is, well, I just said pedophilia.
You should know what it is so you can avoid it.
Oh, I don't think any system will produce that. And if it did, I don't even know what it would be.
No, and there are limitations because it did not want to talk about, like I made a single line reference to nanotechnology, sex, and what that might look like, reproduction, and the system was like, nope.
And so
once I took that sentence out, it was fine with it, and produced that incredible podcast.
There is no way that it's going to. Now that's not me saying that the only way to have creativity is for awful ideas to be populated. But what I'm saying is,
no, but. Often when you can, sometimes you delve into awful places to find the humor.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Is occasionally, people with creative minds, whether they admit it or not, have fucked up thoughts for a second that then they lead into something. Where they go, okay, that's terrible, but that actually gives me an idea for something that's not terrible.
Yeah, Schindler's List. A Chat GPT would never produce Schindler's List.
Well, there would be no nudity.
You have
there
to
would
have
be no on-screen
Nazi
murder.
characters.
There would be nothing.
Oh yeah, yes.
It would be four people in a room discussing why the Nazis are bad.
Yes, it would be. It'd be Schindler going, "They're bad,
aren't they?" And then a freeze frame of everybody jumping at the end when he saved it. But
sometimes you have
to, yay, where they could jump up.
Yeah.
The S team, Schindler team, the S team. Yay!
So yeah, it's the whole. It's the sense that sometimes you have to be able to get into these things. Like, I didn't even think about that. I wonder if you could get this thing to produce a murder mystery for you. I mean, it probably wouldn't let you kill anybody. I was surprised it let me kill the fish.
I heard something where, because I talked in one of my fives about the AI George Carlin special, and we talked about it. And then I heard something today where a comedian reviewed it and said, it's not funny. And no kidding, because no machine is going to say at one point what.
Well, comedy's
forget even
hard
that part.
For humans.
Forget even comedy's hard, which it is. Don't get me wrong. Yes, but to take on George Carlin, who had a special where he said he liked watching people die, no machine is going to say that. It's not, because the guardrails are there, and if they weren't, then you get that thing that happened with Nothing Forever, that AI Seinfeld thing, where it made a transphobic joke,
what? I'm gonna
and they shut it off.
That's
what I'm saying. It's happened more than once.
I want to see if
Microsoft,
if I can get it to.
Microsoft made a chatbot that turned racist, and they had to shut it off. Why? Because that's what I'm saying.
Oh it did.
So you're going to end up with this, as you said, PG version of it. And look, because people will take things the wrong way. I am not arguing. I am not one of these free speech absolutionists who thinks that every terrible idea deserves a voice. That is not what I'm saying. I don't want to see racism, sexism, I don't want to see any of that stuff. But
you know what? I am a free speech.
Well, no,
supporter.
not supporter.
You
Absolutionists.
have
These
to-
are two different groups of people. I'm not an Elon Musk type who thinks that he
Okay.
can say any stupid thing and then back off and say, I was just joking.
Oh, no,
even
no,
though
no.
he clearly
I'm
wasn't.
just saying, I think everybody has
That's a
the
different
right
thing.
to say what their opinion is, as long as it does not,
Well,
as long
yes,
as
and
it
that's
does
the
not
difference. Is
incite
these people
violence.
think that they can say something that's, let's say, pro-fascism,
Yeah.
and then say, well, I'm just allowed to express my thoughts, even though you were saying that this is good.
Well, you are,
But you
as
can't
long
then,
as it
you
doesn't
cannot then
incite
dump responsibility
violence.
for what you said, which is what these people do. Is they hide behind, well, free speech. I can just say whatever I
Yeah.
want, and you can't say anything about me saying it. You can't blame me because I'm just expressing my opinion.
Well, no, I can say the best part.
part's
I
fine.
can say whatever I want
that-
about
right.
you
Yes.
because it is free
So-
speech. Yeah, you say what you want, and then I say what I
So-
want, and then you turn around and go, I don't like
And
what you
that's what
said.
I'm getting
and I
at
can be
with
like, well,
this
go
is
fuck
the
yourself.
fact that there are guardrails, whether I agree with them or not, means that somebody else is determining the limits of what these things can express. And that will always limit what
Yeah.
it can do because, again, I guarantee you that many creative people have dark, horrible thoughts at times because creativity often involves thinking outside of the standard perspective of the world. And that can be very good and it can be very bad.
Well, yeah, I mean, think of every tragedy or any
Well,
like
like
a
Giger stuff.
post-apocalyptic
Giger stuff
novel.
wasn't
It's like you're thinking
fucking
about the
Powerpuff
breakdown of
Girls.
society. I'm still in the
Or
I'm still in the
Francis
world of
Bacon's
writing, that's what I
paintings.
mean. Like every Stephen King book is outside the norm of reality, crossing over the land of darkness.
And that's
to
what a
some
machine
level, you know what I mean? Like,
will probably not be able
Yeah.
to do because it's going to have limits that are imposed on it. Good or bad. And those limits can go both ways. It's not as if there's one side that it can be guardrailed and not another.
yeah. So,
Yes.
in closing, I think that you should definitely play with Chat GPT
Mm.
because I think there is amusement to be had. But I don't think that it's going to change the world.
It's a
At least
calculator.
not yet.
This is a calculator.
Yes.
Nobody uses an
it's a
abacus
calculator,
anymore.
yeah.
Calculators and calculating machines transformed the world, but they didn't suddenly make it where you could go to Mars. This stuff is not going to suddenly remake society tomorrow or at any time in the future. It is simply going to, yes, it will revolutionize certain things. But that happens every decade. Something.
It's a tool.
The iPhone is the Chat GPT of
Yeah.
its time. It changed the paradigm of how cell phones are. But are we now walking around with cybernetic arms because of the iPhone? No. It just made it where the idea of a heavily computerized and powerful pocket computer could actually be a design object, and that made it more desirable, and it made it into basically like a fashion accessory. But that's what this stuff is. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's not Skynet, nor is it data. It's neither of these things.
But I'm glad that
Well, it's a
I
wonderful
have
tool.
examples now.
It's a
At
wonderful
least in
tool.
the world of fiction, to show you it's not
I mean-
it's not great. It's not perfect.
Yeah.
Play with it. Anytime there's a program like this, I really need to get around to playing with it. Like I played with the whole silly machine learning art and stuff like that. Yeah, I played with it because it's a toy. That's really what it is at the end of the day. It's a toy.
Well, I wouldn't call it a toy. I would call it a
know,
tool. It is
and
a
if you can
tool
get-
in a toolbox. Hey,
Well,
anything
any
can be a
tool
toy if
can
you play
be
with
a
it.
toy if you're having the right kind of fun with it. There you go. Exactly. See?
I learned that from Parks and Recreation.
There you go.
Well, this is
What
the
have you got
opposite of
for me,
this,
sir?
but
What have you got
I
tonight?
watched because I happen to have a Shudder subscription, and I had seen that Alex Winter from Bill and Ted, of course, and many other films, had been promoting a movie that he executive produced and was in called Destroy All Neighbors. And I thought,
Oh yeah, and what was the other one he did where he was like a ghoul or something like that, where he gets turned into a. He's got another
maybe I
horror
don't know. I
movie.
don't know
He
what
gets
the other
turned
one
into
is.
a.
I mean, he's buried under prosthetics in most of this movie as a Russian whatever.
Oh no, he was buried. He was
Let's see.
buried
I mean,
in
Freak-
prosthetics. In the
This
other
reminded
one.
me of Freaked, but
If you haven't seen the
oh well, that's an older film.
Freaks.
Yeah, okay.
Oh
I thought you
yeah,
meant
I
a
think
newer
that's what
one.
it
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Hold
yeah.
on. Yeah.
That's one of my
that
favorite
one is
films of this type.
hilarious.
And this movie, when I watched the trailer, I thought, oh, this looks like
Yeah.
that. And it has that kind of bonkers mentality to it where it never feels like a real movie, but it's definitely not as out there as Freaked. Freaked is out there, but it's great. But like I said, it did have that kind of vibe to it, to use a hip term, I guess. It had the vibe of Freaked. So I was like, all right, I'll watch this.
Holy shit. I always forget that fucking Brooke Shields
Of what? Freaked, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of people in Freaked.
Yeah.
Bobcat is the sock. Mr. T is in it, I think. Mr. T. I think Bobcat Goldthwait is the voice of the sock. The bad guy is what? Randy Quaid, right? I think it's Randy Quaid. I'm pretty sure it's Randy, not Dennis.
I'm looking.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it is.
And actually, what's his face? Keanu Reeves.
Mr. T is the bearded
Keanu Reeves
lady.
is the Wolfman, I think, or Wolf Boy. Yes, I think he's uncredited though, but it is him.
Awesome. Yeah.
Because they were, they're pals. But anyway, so I was like, all right, this is fun. This looks like a good time. I'll watch this because I had read people were saying, oh, there's lots of gore in it, which I tend to like, especially when it's not in a serious movie. I don't want to watch somebody actually being tortured, but I like gore when it's silly. So I thought, all right, let me watch this thing. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. But I will say, don't come into this expecting gore. Not really. It's sort of an unusual film for Shudder. This feels more like what they used to put on IFC when that was a channel. Something like that. It feels like an independent film, but it really doesn't feel like a horror movie. Not really. It's too whimsical to be a horror movie, which is an odd phrase to use for it. But I liked it a lot. I think anybody who likes a movie like Freaked will enjoy it. But it's not as out there as Freaked. It's not as gory as a lot of stuff that's on Shudder. So I'm just warning people that it's called Destroy
what's
All Neighbors, which I think is supposed to be a reference to Destroy All Monsters. That's another reason I want to watch it, which is a Godzilla film. That's it. Well, it's not really a Godzilla film. It's a monster movie where they just threw all the Godzilla stuff into it at once, and they're just all literally on an island, all fighting each other.
Oh, so he's not the director. He's in it.
Alex Winter is Vlad. You won't recognize him at all. And then he shows up, even though he's not credited. I'm pretty sure he's the lawyer at the end for 5 minutes. I mean, he has to be. Nobody else quite looks like him. So I don't know if they just didn't think people would notice or what.
Oh yeah, I saw something.
So the
about
movie's
this
premise
movie,
is it's a very simple film in its basic premise. There's a guy whose name is William who lives in a apartment building, and he has been trying to finish an album, a prog rock album. And there's sort of just an automatic joke with prog rock, but everybody shits on it because prog rock is essentially just, do whatever you want and call it prog rock. That has been like the joke of prog. And they reference it several times in this, that it's just a bunch of shit where it's like the Peter Gabriel thing, where it's like, okay, this is just whatever Peter Gabriel wants to make. It's not actually anything except it's a Peter Gabriel song. So it can be pop, it can be rock, it can be weird and world, it can be, soulful and depressing. It's just Peter Gabriel. That's prog rock. Is, okay, I'm going to put a violin into a fish tank and then bang on the fish tank with boxing gloves and record it from a toilet across the room, and that's an instrument now. That's prog rock. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm saying it's totally experimental in many cases. It can be long, meandering. You can have 2-minute songs. You can have 24-minute songs. The nature of it is that it's basically meant to be played with as a genre. So it doesn't even really mean anything. At least, what?
Oh God.
Yeah. So he's in an apartment, and the very opening of the movie, there's a guy next door to him that's moving out. And this guy, I didn't record this, but it's a very funny bit because the guy is a screenwriter. And he finally got a movie to be made out of his screenplay, and he's going to make some money off it. And he's talking, and William's the main character. William's talking to him. He's like, "Oh wow, you got your thing made," And he's like, "Yeah, I got it made. It took a lot of hard work. It's just I had an idea, and my trust fund, and my dad knows the director, and my uncle's a producer. But yeah, I finally, the hard work paid. Like it's a joke of course he got it made because he knows people. It's not the quality of the actual screenplay. It's just what happened." And William is very clearly jealous that he got his screenplay made before he's finished this album he's been working on for a long time. And he goes, okay, I'm gonna rededicate myself because this guy got his thing made and I gotta get my thing done. And you see him working on it and he's kind of playing it and he's happy with it, but it's just, there's this little bit that's gotta be done. And then we see, he's late for work and he runs off to work, and his boss at the job is played by Thomas Lennon, who's very funny. And he's there and he's recording this guy who is, a typical barely talented idiot who just knows how to write popular stuff. And he's, as the guys in the booth kind of noodling around, he's playing his album for Thomas Lennon, his boss. And Thomas Lennon's like, wow, that's really good. This sounds incredible. You composed? He's like, yep, I did all of it. He's like, it takes a while to get into it, but that's what prog rock is. And he's kind of, Thomas Lennon's into it. And then his boss is complaining about this guy, the musician who's in the booth, who can't hear them at this point. And he's like, man, this guy showed up late. And I mean, showing up late, that's not rock and roll. And his whole running gag is everything he says isn't rock and roll is in fact rock and roll. So he's talking about drug use. He uses drugs, man. That's not rock and roll. It's like, okay, I get it. It's fun. It is funny. It's funny. But then I did capture that basically this guy, the guy in the booth, really he says, oh, your engineer finally got here. Okay. And he kind of comes out of the booth while William is playing his song. So I recorded this because this is funny and this is kind of a taste of the humor of the film.
To all womenkind.
Wow. I think it was the best one yet, man.
I was like, shit. Scott, is your fucking engineer here yet?
Yeah, my name's William. Nice to meet you, Mr. Jansen.
No, it's Caleb Bang Jansen. You have to say the whole name.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Caleb Big Jansen. I'm
Very
sorry.
sorry. You sound like a fucking baby, man. Grow up. Oh, shit.
Hey, what's wrong, Caleb Bag Jansen?
Any guys got any coke or ketamine? Never mind. I found something. I'm gonna hit the slopes, man.
Doing drugs is not what rock and roll is all about.
While we got a minute, would you mind if I got your opinion on something?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Did you compose all of this?
Yeah, I've been working on it for a while now at home, yeah.
Wow. It's really like,
The fuck is this?
It's something I've been working on at home. It's called Epitaph for the Fall Circus. It's kind of like a progressive form of prog. I've been calling it prog squared.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like Emerson getting butt fucked by Lincoln Palmer. Am I right, Scott?
yeah. Because I was literally just about to say how much it sucks. And don't play it here again or you're fired.
Well, prog's not for everybody. Okay, it's kind of auditory labyrinth. I actually like that it takes a long time to get into it. So some of my favorite
Let me
albums.
ask you a question, my guy. Why do you think I am in there and you are in here?
Because you got a song on this soundtrack for the OC.
It's because I know what people want from their music. It's to fuck! To fuck! To fuck!
Get off me.
My music makes people make babies. The only way I listen to your shitty music is if you tied me up at gunpoint and you forced me to.
Right on. You ready to do another take, Mr. Caleb Bang Jansen?
Jansen!
I laughed just listening to it. Yeah. So this is the humor, and it is funny. I actually laughed out loud at this movie several times, which I don't usually with comedies. I usually just kind of smirk at it or enjoy the humor, but I don't usually laugh. And the performances are very good. So basically, this is the end of his terrible day at work, and as he's leaving, there's a homeless guy who is outside of the studio that keeps calling him Croissant Guy because one time he gave him a croissant and keeps asking him for him. And he's like, I don't just carry croissants around with me. And the guy starts, he says, oh, you will encounter an evil force. And it's starting to like make what seems to be some kind of predictions, and then at the end he says, and 3 ghosts will come to visit you. So William's like, oh, okay, you're just crazy. So he takes off and goes home and notices that somebody is now moving into the apartment next to them. It doesn't see him, but sees this guy is basically seems to be very strong because he's essentially one man carrying a giant sofa into the apartment and just kind of slamming things and making these very ogreish sounds, and then starts playing really loud techno music. And it's like and you hear it booming through the walls like boom 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 boom, boom, boom all the time. And he's complaining to his girlfriend that he lives with, and she's like, well, just go over and ask him to turn it off. He's like, no, I don't want to have a confrontation. I don't want it to be a a thing where I make something out of it because, maybe I'll just bang on the wall and he'll understand what that means. She's like, don't just bang on the wall. I'll go over there and talk to him. He says, no, don't do that. Don't do that. He sounded like he was maybe mean or something. I don't want you to, I don't want you to go over there. Just stay here. So he kind of softly hits the wall once and the music stops dead. And then you hear like stomping and you see the guy come up to, and if you see, I don't know if you see pictures of what he looks like as Vlad, that's Alex Winter in this very, very heavy suit where he looks like kind of a stout Russian guy. And the guy comes up to the peephole, sees him looking through it, and then like hocks a big, like disgusting wad of loogie onto it. And so because of that, William calls the cops, right? And so he calls the cops, and so the cops show up. And where was he because he wasn't there when he talked to the cops. Like he left. I don't remember where he went though. He goes somewhere, calls the cops, and then he comes back because he meets up with the police. They come up to the apartment to see what happened. And when they walk in, Vlad is in the apartment with Emily and they're having tea and he's acting very nicely. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. It was just a misunderstanding. I didn't realize how loud my music was. And then, I lost my temper when he pounded on the wall. So but I'm very sorry and I'll make sure I keep it down. But then when he goes, the cops are like, okay, you pounded on the wall, so you were instigating it basically. So basically this looks like a case of, neither person did the right thing, and they leave. And so Vlad's like, well, I'm going to go now. And he hugs Emily. When he does, he kind of mouths, I'm going to fuck you up or something to William. So of course this was all an act. And so he leaves and, William is flipping out because he sees what was going on there. And so at one point he goes over to, so there's a point where the music's back on again. And he keeps complaining about it. And finally Emily is because Emily, the girlfriend, has throughout the first half of the movie keeps asking him every time he leaves, oh, can you pick up printer paper for me? And he keeps forgetting to do it. And so there's a point where he comes home, he gets fired from the job because he kind of loses his temper and he gets fired. So he comes home. And once again, he's forgotten the printer paper and the music's playing. And then we get this exchange between him and Emily as he walks in. You will hear the music in this.
You're home early.
Yeah, they let me go. Early, they let me go early today.
Oh. Did you remember to grab the printer paper?
Oh, shit, I'm sorry, Emily, I forgot.
Oh.
No, I'm sorry, you know I'm not good at keeping track of that kind of shit.
You mean you're not good at keeping track of my shit?
No, I haven't been sleeping well, and Vlad's music is fucking non-stop. I can't believe it's not bugging you. It's just driving me crazy.
Okay, listen to me. If it's so difficult with Vlad's music, I will just go over there and I will speak to him.
No. I don't want you over there. I don't want him over here. Listen, I am sorry. I'll be more present, and I will remember the printer paper. Just once I finish this album, then I'll be able to get that stuff.
You have been trying to finish this album for 3 years. And you haven't gotten anywhere close. You act like this hobby is more important than everything else in your life.
My hobby? What do you think all this stuff is? Like, music is like my life. If you don't like my music, then what do you like about me?
What do I like about you? Right now, I don't know. Look, I'm gonna go grab the printer paper. I'll see you later.
Shit.
So after she leaves, he finally loses his temper and he goes over and decides to confront Vlad. So the door is open and he sees Vlad is working out. So he basically opens the door and he comes in and he starts asking him to turn the music down. And Vlad immediately responds with, hey man, why are you in my apartment? You just walked in here. And he's like, well, I just wanted you to turn the music down. I'll leave. And Vlad's like, no. You're here now. And basically starts to fuck with him, kind of pushing around and saying, the way I was raised, you come in and you're going to deal with somebody, then you're going to deal with somebody. So, what are you going to do about it? But it's this thing where he's kind of just bullying him around the apartment. And then finally, William is just trying to get away from him and ends up picking up a bottle to try to break it, to threaten him. Can't do it. So Vlad busts it over his own head and says, here's how you break a bottle. And then there's a point where he kind of lunges at William. William pushes him. Vlad slips on a piece of food on the floor. And then he impales himself on his weight equipment because it's basically like homemade weights where it's like a pipe with buckets of rocks on it. Like it's not real workout equipment. Yeah, it's one of those types of things. So he tries to get him off of the rod and like disimpale him. But by doing that, he gets his head to go underneath one of the pieces of equipment and it decapitates him. And so now he's got the body. And throughout the movie at this point, when he's been driving, when we've seen our stuff, he's got his phone a lot of times. He's playing this video by a bass player, I believe, from a band called Dawn Dimension, who were from the 70s or 80s or something, some past band that's now long since disbanded, and they're prog rock. And this guy's giving you like life lessons on, how to stick with your music and how to not let yourself be distracted and all this stuff. So it's almost like motivational song teaching. And and he keeps like, so he's this guy sitting there. He looks like a hippie. And so then the next thing is when he's trying to figure out what the body is, then you see him watching the phone. The phone's like, here's how you dismember a body and hide it, because now you've just murdered somebody, but you still got to be able to finish your album. So I'm going to show you how to do it. And so he's going through all the different ways that you can, dismember and dissolve a body. And so he's trying to figure out what to do. And finally he comes up to dismembering the body. And so he cuts it up. And then the body starts talking the head starts talking to him. He's like, hey, what are you trying to do here, buddy?
So is he having just a
the end of the movie makes it very tough to tell. And this is something people complain about. I don't think it matters. But at this point, nothing contradicts that this is reality. So the head starts talking to him. And so he's like, oh, no. And so he tries to get, he bags up the body and puts it into the van and then drives around and is trying to dispose of the body in a dumpster when the homeless guy sees him trying to get rid of it. And then as he's doing that, Vlad starts controlling his body parts, even though they're separated from him. And he stomps on the gas, which makes him run over the homeless guy and kill him by running him over. And so William's like, oh, Jesus. And so he puts that body into the car and he's trying to figure out what he's going to do with that. And then that body starts talking to him. So then he realizes that body, because he sees the guy wearing a very specific ring, and he realizes that guy is the guy in the videos on his phone. So this is one of the members of the band that is his favorite band. So he's killed one of the members of his favorite bands. Yeah. So because he's older. Because obviously he was in this band when he was younger, and now at this point he's homeless. So yes, somebody of his idols that obviously didn't make it in music. So then he finally decides, okay, I'm just going to go throw you guys into the woods. So he takes him out, and they're talking to him the whole time. And Vlad's like, hey, buddy, what are you doing? Like he's got this Russian kind of accent that he's trying to do. And so he throws all the bodies into the woods, and then comes back to the apartment, and the landlord, who's the woman who runs, she calls her the apartment manager, which I think is another word for landlord, basically, comes back, and this woman has, throughout the movie, asked him for help with little things, mostly to help her reset the circuit breaker, because she doesn't know anything about electronics, so he'll go down and kind of fix the fuse for her. And he's done it up to this point, but he's like, you know what? I'm really tired. I've had a really rough day. I help you all the time, but I just can't help you today. And then he leaves, comes back, and finds out that she's electrocuted herself because she tried to fix the fuse without his help, and she stuck a screwdriver into the electrical panel and fried herself. No,
well, that's not entirely
but
his fault.
So you're right, not his fault. But he's finally just he has had it, and he's so exhausted he just passes out. And so then we get this little back and forth where his girlfriend comes back into the apartment. This is after all this stuff has happened. She comes back and we get this.
Are you leaving?
No.
Thank God.
Oh, no, I'm packing up my stuff and then I'm leaving.
Wait, no. You're just gonna leave just because I've been out of it the past couple days?
It hasn't just been the past couple of days, Will. I think we need a break.
No, we don't need a break. What are you doing? It's just the noise from Vlad's apartment. It was just fucking driving me crazy, okay?
Yeah, but it's quiet now.
Yeah, no shit.
You'll find something else.
What's that supposed to mean?
First, you had to find the perfect speaker system. Then you had to buy the cords from Japan. Then you were annoyed because Alec was making too much noise while he was having sex.
Yeah, it's gross.
It's the same thing. You're constantly surrounded by problems, but the only constant is you.
Do you hear that?
You're not even listening.
No, yeah, what? No, I am. No, what, you don't hear that.
So now she leaves. She's done. She takes her stuff. She leaves. Well,
is he hearing real
after she
music, or is
leaves,
he
he
hearing
goes
fake
over to the
music?
apartment and finds that Vlad and all of his body parts and Augie, the dead homeless guy, are having a rave in their apartment. So they've gotten out of the woods somehow. They're back in the apartment, and he basically says to he says the homeless guy, he basically gets high and gets drunk, and they end up now they become kind of buddies, everybody, where he's talking about how much he loves prog music. And he's like, "You were my mentor," and Vlad's like, "You know what? Maybe I'll listen to this prog stuff. Why don't you play it for me and let me see if I actually like this? I mean, I don't know if it's any good. I always heard it was shit, but let me listen to it." So they start playing music for Vlad, and Vlad's like, "Oh, okay, you know what? This is actually good. The only problem with it is that, the thing that makes EDM so good is you can fuck to it." So again, kind of echoing back to Caleb Bang Jansen from the beginning, where he's talking about you got to be able to fuck the music or it's no good. And so, but Vlad's like, "You know what? I've kind of come around. Why don't you play me the mix of the music that because they were playing examples of Dawn Dimension, I think, to Vlad, which is the dead homeless guy's band." And he's like, "Let me hear what you're doing." He's like, "Really? You want to hear?" He's like, "Yeah, take us over there." So he takes the head, and the homeless guy walks because he can walk. His head's just destroyed, but like half his head's destroyed. So they walk over, and he puts the head on a cabinet, and he starts playing the music. And then one of his other neighbors comes over, who they call Pig Guy because he's a guy with 2 pigs. And Pig Guy comes over, and he's like, "Turn that fucking music down." And he's like, "Man, all right, I'm just playing this for some friends of mine." And he's like, "I don't care." And he gets very hostile towards him. And then he basically takes a baseball bat and smashes one of his speakers. And William starts getting very pissed off. And then William ends up stabbing him a bunch of times and killing him. And then, so stabs him, kills him.
Oh, God.
And as he does that,
so he is very actively killing people now. Okay.
Vlad was an accident. Augie, from what we see, was Vlad doing it, but it still was, I don't think it was supposed to be intentional, no matter who's actually doing it. This guy, it is somewhat of self-defense because the guy was threatening him with a baseball bat. And I think the first thing he stabs him with is like it's like a letter. It's not like a weapon. It's like a screwdriver or something. I don't remember. It's something. You could read it as self-defense that he actually was threatened by the guy. It just depends on how you want to read the scene. A lot of this is left to, okay, you can decide what you want. But right after he does that, the girlfriend is coming back to get something, sees the body, freaks out, calls the cops, and runs. And at that point, what happens does he just run away? I'm trying to remember if he collapses or runs away. So the cops show up and arrest him, and then they put him into a cell, but I don't remember why they don't see the body right away. I think he's outside the building. I think he tries to leave and they capture him. So anyway, they take him, they arrest him, they put him in a cell. He happens to be in a cell with the guy who sold the screenplay, and the guy who sold the screenplay, like something happened where now he's in jail too. He got drunk or something. And, so it's just like, he's like, "Oh, your girlfriend left you, huh? You mind if I call her?" And he's like, "Yes, I mind if you call her." It's just like a little joke scene for that. So then he has to meet with his lawyer, who is played, I'm 99.999% okay, I thought so, but he wasn't credited, so I wasn't sure. At least it wasn't in the credits of the movie. And so he meets with his lawyer, and basically at this point, William is expecting him to say, "Okay, they're going to execute you." And so we get this exchange between William and his lawyer.
"William Brown, your lawyer's here."
Man, is there a way we can just skip all this shit and get straight to the fucking lethal injection or whatever?
Stop. Just be cool, okay?
Right.
Okay, I know it's a hassle, but we gotta go through all this due process crap, okay?
Okay.
Ah, here we are. William Brown. Yes! You're getting out, my friend.
Wait, what?
Police didn't find a body.
That doesn't make sense.
2 cops conducted a thorough search of the entire building. Then they searched your apartment, top to bottom. There was no conclusive evidence of foul play of any kind. They just found a torn shirt, a pile of knives, a bunch of worthless broken records, and some animal droppings, blah. And it looks like someone named Emily.
That's my girlfriend, ex-girlfriend. I'm not sure.
Yeah? Well, she said she found a body in your apartment. The police didn't find one, didn't find a single drop of blood, so she lied.
No, she didn't lie. She was there because she can't get in trouble. She's a good person. Listen, I'm the one who was a manslaughterer.
Emily's gonna be fine, okay? It's just a domestic disturbance.
Okay.
William, I think we need to take the win here. It's gonna really help me out at home with the old lady. She hates that I never win stuff. Okay?
Okay.
Just be cool and don't murder anyone else.
I did it.
Okay?
Okay.
Deal?
Deal. Okay.
Oh, there's one other thing. The cops said they want you to officially identify the body of some woman down at the morgue. They think you might know her, okay?
Yeah.
So, Emily saw a body. The cops didn't find anything. Now, and you heard like snapshot noises, and that was at one point we see pigs eating something. So I guess
did Pigman? Did
I guess so. Even though they said there was no
pigs
blood
eat
or
the
anything,
bodies?
it's hard to say that. But I mean, they said no conclusive evidence. So maybe they saw blood, but they couldn't find anything except for the pig crap, I guess. So again, Emily saw a body, but the cops found nothing. So again, you're kind of like, well, wait. So did this happen or not? So now we get to the point where he goes into the morgue. He identifies Eleanor, who's the woman who electrocuted herself. So she was, which she didn't kill. And then after the mortician leaves, she, of course, reanimates and says, hey, you know what? I got something for you. Because he's like, oh, I'm really sorry. And she's like, well, you didn't kill me. I just went down there and I killed myself. And that's why he refers to himself as a manslaughterer. Because, and we really don't see evidence that he's in murdering these people. There's always something that happens that's either self-defense, accident, whatever. So he's not a murderer. And that's why he's referred to himself several times as a manslaughterer throughout the movie. And that's where he says it to the lawyer. So she's like, come on back with me. I got something for you. So he goes back with this dead, like fried corpse of a woman, which is clearly an actual practical puppet, which I love. Because you could see it's kind of like not completely as well made as it could be, but that makes it charming. And he finds out that she was a big fan of prog rock and actually has musical instruments that the homeless guy once owned from the Dawn Dimension band. And she says, look, I've got these instruments. You basically have a band. Me, Vlad, and the Dawn Dimension guy. I don't remember what his name was. I think his name was like Stig or Swig or something. Whatever. But she's like, Dawn Dimension guy, you basically have a 4-piece band. Let's just get this thing done. We just need a recording studio. And he's like, I know where there's a recording studio. So he goes to his old work place, which is a studio, and finds that his boss and Bang whatever Jansen are clearly about to have sex with each other. And as they come in there, the Bang Jansen guy
isn't
that's Thomas
isn't
Lennon.
One
that's
of
the
them
boss.
from Reno 911.
Yeah. So he goes in there, and Bang Jansen pulls a gun. And says, oh, I heard about you. You're a mass murderer. You got arrested for killing a bunch of people. And he's like, no, I'm a mass manslaughterer, and they didn't find anything. And so they managed to get the drop on Bang Jansen and get the gun. Well, he does, because again, you don't know what's going on as far as outside of him. Gets the gun from him, ties them up. But in the meantime, Bang Jansen had managed to, somebody had called the cops, and you don't know who it is. So the cops show up, and they're like, okay, let the hostages go. And they brought Emily along because they think she can talk to him. And he's like, look, I just want to finish making my album. And he has this kind of thing where he says to Emily, he's like, I know I fucked up a bunch of stuff, but now I have all the albums. I have a way to play this thing. I just want to get this done. And Emily's like, okay, I'm going to tell this. He's like, maybe if you tell me a story, and he says a specific story, then I'll let them go. And that Emily's like, oh, okay. And he says to Vlad, I think he says, okay, if she tells the long version of the story, we have about 34 minutes. And so she starts telling this story that she says to the cops, I think this will get him to let them go and he'll come out. And so as they're saying this, all the band sets up with all the dead people, and basically Bang Jansen and his ex-boss are running the board, and they start recording this album, and it turns into this psychedelic thing where there's like light beams shooting all over. And then Vlad says, fuck you, I called the cops.
Can the others?
There's never an indication whether they do or they're just looking at William. You never see it where you can tell. They don't react like there's dead bodies there, but then again, they're terrified the whole time. So is it because of what they're seeing or because he's got a gun?
Yes.
You don't know. Or because they're just going along with what he's saying.
Yeah.
So he starts playing, and then Vlad turns into a giant monster, And the burned woman says, yeah, don't worry about that. Use that to finish your song. It's fine. Just keep going. And so he manages to finish the album and I guess master it somehow. And then the cops basically burst in and arrest him. And then we cut to some amount of time later. I don't know how much later it is, but now he's in prison and he's been sentenced to 3, I think, consecutive life sentences. You assume for each of the people that he's killed, which would be Vlad, the Dawn Dimension guy, and the pig guy.
Yeah.
But not Eleanor, because that was an accident. But then we see on the TV that you see the boss and Bang Jansen are presenting at, I don't know, the Prague Awards or whatever the hell it is. So obviously now they're together and they're like, this album William, whatever his name is, has won Best Prague Album of the Year. So he gets an award and his album has come out and everybody loves it. And it's won this big award and he's watching this from inside a prison. And then we see Emily show up and Emily shows up and says, apparently she's a lawyer or something because she's talking about trying to get his sentence reduced. It's like, what's one less consecutive? I don't know what the point of 3 consecutive life sentences is. So sure, try to knock one down, but it's not really going to matter. And she's like, yeah, but she seems to, I don't know if they're supposed to be like a jailhouse couple, but she definitely is treating him more warmly than she had been when she left. And he basically won this award. And then the end of it is him sitting in there in the cell, but he seems to be happy because he finally finished his album and he got it done. And then the movie ends. So the fact that he's in prison, obviously you don't get 3 consecutive life sentences if they find absolutely nothing, right? Although really he didn't. The only one that you could argue he murdered was the pig guy, and even that I believe is accidental, because when they were talking about the broken records, I think the first thing that happens is when he breaks the records, he's like really angry that because he broke one of the Dawn Dimension albums, and he tries to like show it to him and say, this is really important to me, and he stabs him in the neck. But I don't think he was doing it on purpose. So technically he was right. What the movie shows us, now again, is this his view or is this what actually happened? Was that these were always reactions to something. But at multiple points, we also have people saying, you're making this stuff up. You're creating these obstacles, these things. So was the music ever actually loud? Was it an accident? Or did he just lose his mind and kill Vlad because he was frustrated and he needed something to take out his anger on? We don't ever know. And honestly, I don't think the movie really cares. The point of the movie is really that he finally got his album done because he seems to be triumphant. He's happy where he is because his album got done. So obviously there's metaphor, allegory to it on the idea of, your demons will stop you from doing something. Just get your stuff done. Just focus on what you're doing.
What happens when
your demons can be helpful to the creative process, basically, because they do help him for a while. Only Vlad then turns on him at the end. But then I remember that the burned woman was saying something about use the fact that he's against you to finish the album. Yeah.
Use the fear. Use it.
That's really the point of the movie, I think. And like I said, it's a happy ending, more or less for him, because he doesn't seem he was miserable throughout the rest of the movie. He was always looked miserable, tired, put upon, couldn't get stuff done. Now in prison, he looks very content and happy, and his album is done.
Well, he got his album out, and his album won an award. He feels like he did the thing he wanted to do.
That's what I mean about whether this actually happened or not. Really doesn't matter. Yeah.
I read a review of this movie, and the one line that stood out to me was, "It's a goofy movie handled seriously."
It never feels like reality. It has that Terry Gilliam kind of feel to it, where it doesn't feel like it's an actual place. It definitely feels like.
Yeah.
If I were to guess, most, if not all of this takes place in his mind. Like what we're seeing is not the actual thing that's going on. We're seeing a lot of his interpretation of things. So, I'm sure parts of it are actually literally true as far as what was supposed to be happening in the world. Like I'm sure that Bang Jansen guy was supposed to be an asshole. That feels like that doesn't feel like a distorted person. Thomas Lennon's character feels very real because when he's basically just trying to keep his job. He's like, I just got to keep this, he doesn't say this explicitly, but when Bang Jansen's in the soundproof thing, he's like, yeah, this guy's such a dick, and that song's really good. And then as soon as he comes out, then he turns into, yeah, that's shit, don't ever play that again. And man, Bang Jansen, you're the coolest, man. You know what rock and roll is. But he seems like he's very just submissive to whatever keeps him in the game type of thing. So those elements feel real. But then, was Vlad's head talking to him the whole time? I don't know. Did it turn into a giant Godzilla-sized monster in the studio and was threatening him? And he's got a cape. He looks like a wizard when he's playing the guitar, like light, magical rainbow light beams are shooting out and there's sparkles and stars. So obviously there is a heavy element of, yeah, this isn't real, but where that line is, I don't know. And again, I don't think it's important. That's not what the movie's priority is. It's an allegory for the creative process and trying to actually finish something that you start. And that's the point of the movie. It's a very fun movie, but like I said, I saw things talking about how gory it is. It really, yes, there is gore. There is a dismembered head throughout it and there is blood at times.
But it almost
reminds
cartoonish.
me of something like a Peter Jackson movie, where at no point does this actually seem like horror. Like Dead Alive. Yeah, there's gore everywhere, but it's never scary. The rat thing, I guess, is kind of frightening if you're scared of rats. But the rest of it is, there's no point of fear in that movie. And that's what I mean about this. There's gore in it, but it never feels like it's not rubber, latex, gore things being thrown around. And, at one point, Vlad's torso and intestines are playing the drums, I think. So it's like a Jim Henson thing at that point, because the intestines don't look real. They look like silly latex condoms that are bouncing on a goddamn drum. So that's what I mean about it. It never comes across as the silly thing played straight. Yeah, that's correct, because it never does feel like a horror film. It feels more like just somebody having a mental breakdown at points, like a falling down type of thing. But even Falling Down is a more terrifying movie than this, because I completely believe that could happen. This is nonsense, but it's really fun. So again, The Freaked is a really good comparison point for this. If you know what that movie is and you like that movie, or if the trailer looked interesting to you, you will likely have a very good time with it. I think it's a fun movie. It's a movie we don't see very often anymore, which is kind of I can't imagine this thing had a very high budget. It had to be a low budget film. Not low budget, but lower budget. I would be shocked if this was made for very much money, but that's okay because it doesn't need much money. I love the fact that the effects are mostly practical. I don't think they're entirely practical, but they look like there's definitely points, like I said, when you see that woman's animated body bouncing around, it clearly is somebody who's been they're probably wearing like a green suit and they have like the sticks and they're just basically photoshopping the people out who are animating it, old Henson style type of stuff. I want to see if it had a budget. It doesn't. Comedy horror, it is genuinely funny too. That's something else. A lot of these movies, a lot of comedy horrors are not funny. They're just not usually as funny as this one is. So I actually think that it's legitimately at times very funny. It's on Shudder and AMC Plus, which I'm assuming that AMC either owns Shudder or the other way around. I can't find a budget for it, so I don't know how much it was made for, which I was kind of curious about because what?
Oh man, you know what? He played the lead.
Yeah.
He looked familiar to me. He's in he plays Jonah Ray in the Bloody Christmas movie.
Got it. Yeah, he looks familiar to me too.
So yeah, he just seemed
No, that's it. So like I said, I had a lot of fun with it. I think if you like stuff like Freaked, that's a very easy way to say, well, if you like that, you'll like this. Or if the trailer looked like a movie you might have a good time with, I think you'll have a good time with it.
Is that a double feature?
I don't know. I mean,
because this is more gory than Freaked.
Well, I mean, there's the point where they get all melted and everything. So I don't know if it's gorier, but Freaked is more surreal than this movie is. So the thing is, I'm trying to think what a good pairing for a movie like this would be. Because I'd almost say it would have to be something else that's kind of this. Because Freaked isn't really a metaphor for anything. Freaked is just a fucking somebody's on coke movie. It's just like somebody wanted to make something and they were on a lot of drugs and they wrote it and somehow somebody actually gave them money to make it. Because that movie is fucking out there. It's great, but it's fucking out there. This movie is less of that. You can tell that there's an actual kind of idea behind it. Like this is my metaphor for this. You know what I mean? It's very clear that that's the idea. It's a message movie, more or less.
Yeah.
Freaked is not a message movie. Freaked is we want to just slap a bunch of prosthetics on weird, funny people and have them running around. And doesn't Randy Quaid become a giant shoe or some shit? I'm trying to remember. It's out there.
I remember.
So
it's been a while. Yeah.
Yes and no. The silliness, yes. But I don't know. It's hard. So I guess yes, because I can't think of another movie that would be really a direct analog for something like this. Almost another movie where you have this ending that seems on the surface like it would be a bad ending, and yet the person is very content with where they ended up. So I can't think of something else. I'll leave it to viewers or listeners, I guess I should say, to suggest it, because I have a feeling this movie will get seen. It's gotten generally good reviews. I think, it's not a classic by any stretch, but it's a very good time. And I actually think that for some people, this will be another Freaked. Like, I own a copy of Freaked. I don't know that I would buy this. But if somebody were to have this, and I wouldn't blame them, because it is funny. And I'm glad I watched it, because, like I said, just for the practical effects and the fact that I actually did laugh at it, which I don't do a lot. So, and it has a very sarcastic kind of tone to some of the things, like the whole thing about drugs aren't rock and roll, showing up late isn't rock and roll, talking about, like, he has 7 or 8 lines like that are funny. The little interstitials with the Dawn Dimension guy, where you see him from his old days, where he's talking about, how to dismember a body. That part is very funny, but all of his stuff is this very kind of typical, hey man, don't let nobody stop you. And then you find out the band failed. Like that's the joke of it, is that he's giving all this, what seems like wise guru wisdom. And then you find out that the band fell apart and that he's basically on the street. So his wisdom is just garbage, that kind of thing. So there's jokes like that I think work very well. So there's clearly some clever writing and some intelligent humor to it. And then there is this very kind of almost endearing message of, well, if you got to murder people accidentally to get your album made, then that's what you got to do, and just be happy you got your album made, which I don't know that that's really directly what the message should be saying, but that's kind of what you get.
I'm not sure if that's what they're going for.
But again, it is vague on certain things. Like, did he actually straight out murder these people because he had lost his mind? The only reason I don't think so is because he doesn't, I don't know. The movie never presents it like, number one, that seems like too serious of a thing for this movie's tone. Let's start there. It doesn't fit with the tone of the movie. The tone of the movie is he accidentally killed these people because, in fact, he's a bumbling, nervous, worrywart. And it just so happened, and that would be a joke, is that he somehow managed to kill all these people, but he never did it himself, really. It was always either he ran somebody over, he made the person slip and fall.
It was an absurd
act. Absurd for there to be malice in what he's doing. So my interpretation is that he actually did kill them accidentally in every case. And in every case, could it have been avoided? Probably. I mean, if he had just gone and talked to Vlad, maybe it wouldn't have. And I think Vlad says to him when he first enters the apartment, he says, if you just come talk to me like a man, then I would have turned it down. And then it escalates from there. So there is this idea that if he had just handled it directly, as opposed to, and this can, get into the idea of, well, you're always throwing up obstacles, that if he had just gone over and addressed it, well, then that obstacle would have been gone. He wouldn't be able to blame it for anything. But by doing what he did, he may not have directly known what would it lead to, but he kind of, almost a thing where a part of you has to know that trying to be passive aggressive that way might lead to a bad result. And there's one more obstacle for you. There's one more thing where I can't finish my album. You know what I mean? So there's, I don't know. It's an interesting movie when you kind of think about the psychology of it and what the messaging is supposed to be. And I think even if you,
or you could just enjoy it as a weird, fun.
That was my next point. Or if you don't want to think about it at all, it's still a fun mostly practical effects movie about people coming back from the dead to help a guy finish his prog rock album. And there's value in that too, because it is funny. Even if you don't care about any of the underlying stuff, it is often very funny. And you get a lot of very good practical effects, and Alex Winter under a ton of prosthetics doing a terrible accent, which is very funny. So I would recommend it to watch the trailer. If the trailer appeals at all, I think you'll have a good time with it. How much you take out of it will depend on you as the viewer. But if the trailer interests you, then I think you will find, I mean, even the negative reviews I read, many of them were still kind of, well, I was hoping for a little bit more gore, or, well, it wasn't quite what I thought it was going to be, but it was still fun. A lot of them are still praising the movie generally. Some people were like, oh, I expected more out of it, but this isn't a movie that's set up that way. This movie isn't trying to do a lot.
Well, that's why I think the Freaked.
But it is not as off the wall as Freaked. You will not get as many weird and wacky characters as you get with Freaked. I mean, you don't have a living sock puppet. So I just want to make sure expectations are properly set. You will not get a Bobcat sock puppet, because I don't know that that's in any other movie, which is great. So, but yeah, I'll say, because I can't think of any better one. You know, Alex Winter seems to do interesting things. I like when he shows up in stuff. He's one of those people where he shows up in something I'm interested, whatever role he has. And this is another example of that. Really, the only reason I knew about this is he kept promoting it and talking about it and showing clips. And I was like, okay, I've seen stuff about this movie. This looks interesting. And watching the trailer, I went, yeah, I'll probably like this. And I had a really good time with it. Will I ever watch it again? I don't know. I'd have to be in the mood for it. Freaked I've watched a few times over the years, more, probably 5 or 6 times total. And I always just kind of marvel at the fact that it's so out there and that it got made.
Honestly, it sounds like Freaked was always a late night, I'll watch this movie. Whereas this feels more like a movie you would intentionally
I think
watch.
People who are creative would get more out of it than maybe somebody who isn't, because there is definitely that part of the creative process that the movie is engaging with, the struggle of that, and how sometimes you're your own worst enemy. And that is in this movie. But even if you're not somebody like that, if you just come in looking for a horror comedy, again, I will give this credit, because I've watched a lot of horror comedies and most of them aren't funny. You can get the gag, you know what the joke is, but you don't actually think it's funny. You just know there's a joke written there. But it's not really something you respond to. And in this movie, at many points, I went, okay, that's funny. I'm laughing at this. I actually like what this thing is. And there's some jokes that are obviously in the scene, and then there's those long payoffs with, like, the guy ending up being a homeless failure, where this guy was relying on him as kind of his, he's literally repeating the things he's saying, like, yeah, that's what it is. And then you find out that the whole band failed, which is what this whole guy is building his life up, is trying to make an album, any album as good as these guys made. And of course, that's the whole, well, don't meet your heroes philosophy, right? Artists that you love, and you find out, oh, right? So there's lots of that stuff in here. So I had a good time with it. If you already have Shudder or AMC, you don't have to pay to watch it. I'm sure it will make it to the other services probably pretty quickly. I don't know how long it'll stay exclusive to Shudder, but I would guess no more than 3 months. So if you don't have either of those services, I don't see anywhere you can even rent it, but maybe you can through iTunes or something. I didn't check it everywhere. I would definitely say it's a $5 to $10 rental. It's worth it if you're at all interested, because I think if you're interested, then you're kind of the audience for it. And if you're not, or if you're on the fence, then wait till it hits a streaming thing and watch for free. It's only 88 or 89 minutes, not long. And you'll know with this one pretty quick. You'll know in the first 15 to 20 minutes if it's for you, because that Bang Jansen's scene, that happens within the first 10 minutes. So I would watch it through the scene where he comes back home after the first bad day at work. And if you're not into what this movie is, then just stop there. If you are, it's going to get better as it goes, and you'll have the reward of the practical effects and everything else. So that's my basic review of it. So on that note, I hope you enjoyed our AI representations at the front. I think they were very accurate captures of our voices and personalities. And
that's
we really should just stop talking and let those guys talk, because their cadence is so natural. Yeah.
Nano Love,
Now the
100%.
Nano Love podcast. So episode 878 was the last one of the Ozone Nightmare. Thank you very much for tuning in all these episodes. Nano Love podcast will start with episode 1 in February of this year. So I know you're all looking forward to that. So nice talking to you all. This was a great run, everybody. We had a lot of fun doing it, and I hope you're as happy with the host of Nano Love podcast as you've been with us. So on that note, we're signing off forever. Great. And yeah, so look forward to the new show next week, and I hope you like those guys. All right. Take care, everybody. Visit OzoneNightmare.com to subscribe to new episodes, browse through our back catalog, or to find links to support the show. Follow @OzoneNightmare on Twitter for the latest episode postings and other show information. If 280 characters just isn't enough, you can always email us, theozonenightmare@gmail.com. The opening theme for the show is provided by Heartbeat Hero. The closing theme is provided by Ogre. Please visit and support these artists using the links in the show notes for each episode.